What up, everybody? Today, conservative nerd, conservative Chad here, and today, I'm talking about films. We're gonna talk about film. We're gonna talk about '70s and movies, and to do that, I kind of have to talk about the '60s. Uh, in the '60s, a lot of the teen movies were like the Disney teen movies, like uh, Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, World's Greatest Athlete. A lot of them had Kurt Russell or Tommy Kirk in them, and they made a lot of those kind of wacky teen comedies in the '60s, and they didn't. They weren't huge movies. Like they weren't making tons of money. And then I think it's '68 or '69. I didn't do any research on this. I should have double checked my years, but bear with me here. I'm pretty accurate. I see the '68 or '69. Easy Rider came out, and it was it was a huge hit, like big hit, and it didn't cost very much money to make. It had Peter Fonda and Jack Nicholson and Dennis Hopper, and they raised the money themselves and made it. And it was a big hit. And after that, Hollywood kind of rethought their their stance on what they were making to attract teens wasn't really working. So, and then seeing that Easy Rider was a big hit, they kind of realized that they were out of date. And at the same time, understand it's at this time too, a lot of the New York kind of art school colleges that, colleges gotten really woke at this time. You were getting a lot of the left wing radicals from colleges at this time, and especially liberal arts. So you were getting a lot of the real liberal filmmakers coming in, like especially the New York filmmakers from the New York like art schools and stuff that were coming into Hollywood, like your Martin Scorsese's, your Francis Ford Coppola's, Michael Cimino. You might not know Michael Cimino. He made in '70. He made The Deer Hunter, which was a huge movie, and won Best Picture, and it was a big movie, and they couldn't wait to crank out Michael Cimino films. Well, what happened to Michael Cimino is they gave him this huge budget to do whatever he wanted, and they did Heaven's Gate, which is this horrible, like 3.5 hour piece of crap of a movie. Western he was trying to make. It's not very good. It's terrible. It's really unwatchable. It's very boring. It's just long shots, and it tanked. It didn't even make $1 million back, and it cost a fortune. There was one scene, I think he took a month shooting a dance scene, just a dance scene in a dance hall, and it took him like a month to shoot this thing. Yeah, he was definitely wasn't ready for unlimited money. And most of these people aren't, You get somebody unlimited money and nobody overseeing it, they're going to go crazy. And that's what Michael Cimino did. He killed his career, though. Scorsese and Coppola were a little smarter. I've always thought Coppola was very overrated. I mean, I love The Godfather and The Godfather 2. But other than that, I mean, it's like Apocalypse Now, it's overrated. It is art house film, another art house film. I've always thought it was overrated. Yeah, a lot of those guys came in and made. I like Scorsese. He's made some good movies. He's made some boring movies too. I'm not as big on Coppola other than Godfather and Godfather 2. I think he's kind of overrated. He made 2 great movies, and I can't name another one. I didn't care for Dracula. I didn't care for Apocalypse Now. I mean, it's okay. It's just a little slow and very artsy-fartsy. I'm not a big artsy-fartsy guy. I mean, storytelling-wise. But, okay, now back to '70s. There were a lot of art movies in the '70s, because that was that era. I think probably the big suffers in the '70s from were horror films. In '68 or '67, it might even be a bit older than that. But in the '60s, they brought in Bette Davis and Joan Crawford for Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which is actually a good movie. If you've never seen Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, it's better than you think. It's very interesting. A really good movie. It's not as dated as you think. And that was a big hit. So they did a lot of like star horror movies in the 70s, and but it was all ghosty and not a lot happens. Your typical type of 70s horror film would be like Rosemary's Baby. Rosemary's Baby. A lot of the 70s horror movies have that kind of feel to it. Which, again, it's not my type of movie. I like a little more action in my films. Yeah, that typical kind of slow-moving horror movie. Yeah, they definitely suffered. And that's why you got, like, Texas Chainsaw in the late 70s. In response to that. And then you got the action movie in the 80s in response to that. You know, some of the 70s movies are great. I mean, there was, you know, and there were also people like Clint Eastwood, who was still around doing, like, and Charles Bronson, who were doing, like, Dirty Harry and, you know, others. Clint, like, made a ton of hits. And John Wayne was still around in the 70s, and he made a bunch of hits. And those were all the biggest hits of the 70s. Their art house movies usually won Oscars and awards, but they weren't really hits. If you want to look at the hits of the 70s, you can look at John Wayne, you can look at Clint Eastwood. The art house director killed the Western, definitely in the 70s, because they were going for more artsy looks and more realistic takes. So the cowboy wasn't necessarily the hero anymore. Eastwood still did some really good westerns. One of my all-time favorite westerns comes out of the 70s in The Outlaw Josie Wales, which is great, great movie. And High Plains Drifter, which is another really, really weird art. It's a little arty, but man, Clint, you know, it's Clint, and it's good. It's different. It's really weird. One of my favorites from the art house region, though, would be, well, two favorites of mine would be my two favorite Al Pacino movies. And Justice for All, which is, if you haven't seen it, Justice for All, it's freaking phenomenal. And the other one on there would be Dog Day Afternoon. Dog Day Afternoon is so freaking good. Yeah, those two movies are awesome. And Justice for All and Dog Day Afternoon are two of my favorites. Midnight Cowboy, another one. I think that's 69 or 70. Yeah, I think it might be 70. But a great movie. Again, the years get clouded, but I know I'm in there. I'm a couple of years in there somewhere. So, yeah. But instead, we had, George Lucas did American Graffiti, I think it's 73. And then you had Spielberg cranking out stuff there. And Jaws is like 76 or 75. So, yeah, I mean, Jaws kind of changed the cinematic universe. And same with American Graffiti. So it wasn't all art house movies. You know, they were making mainstream movies as well as art house movies. Now, what all this gave way to, though, was the fact that you made a lot more money with mainstream movies. I mean, anybody could see that. They won their awards and they got their, the movies that people talked about, would be like the art house movie director type of movies. But the movies that made money still were Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, Jaws, action movies. American Graffiti, which wasn't really action, but it wasn't art house, it was 50s kids hanging out. Which all gave way to the 80s, which was all about, action and just entertaining the audience. There wasn't a lot of the political movies fell off. They still won their Oscars with, those kind of movies, but for the most part, they weren't making as many of them, especially as many big budget ones, like they were in the 70s. And that's, it's a circle, they're not going to crank out. I've been saying this about superhero movies. This is going to come, full circle. You can't just keep cranking out the same thing nonstop, I think it's sooner or later this comes full circle, and these superhero movies kind of have to, you can't keep it up, is all I'm saying, I mean, people get burnt out on the same thing over and over again. Films go in cycles. You can look at any decade. Usually, I kind of, if you look at a decade, I don't think you should go from 70 to 80. I think you kind of want to go from like 68. The last couple years is of that decade is kind of where that decade starts changing almost every single time. If you look, especially film-wise, you can look at the late 60s and see like all these films that were going to kind of change film from the 60s to the 70s. The same thing with the 70s. You can start looking at the end of the 70s for the films that are going to change the decade. Star Wars is a good one from the 70s. You can see that the art house film was kind of changing more to action, I would think, and entertainment-wise, adventure. Comedies were kind of starting to be less political and kind of be more comedic. You can definitely see that with like Blazing Saddles and Animal House. Yeah, I mean, I think that the last couple of years of each decade is kind of where you see the big changes and stuff. So, this is a big year for like us to see like, where cinema is going to start heading the next couple of years. Like look at movies that were big hits. I think that's kind of, and it's hard now though. It's a lot different now because they sell the crap out of certain things, whereas other things really don't, have the chance. But look at a movie like A Quiet Place. Wasn't a movie that was pushed real well, but did real well. And I think that kind of shows that like cinema's changed, how much cinema changes in those little movies. Those little movies that make a lot of money are the ones I think that change Hollywood's ideas, like A Quiet Place. And A Quiet Place would definitely not be a left-wing movie, so it shows that those kind of movies make a lot of money. If you look at Amy Schumer's new hardcore left-wing feminist comedy, like that thing's eating dicks. It ate a bag of dicks at the box office. It got beat out. It's opening week. It got beat out by fucking Super Troopers 2, man. And that shows that I think things are changing in Hollywood. They might not see it for a while because I know, like, they're all left-wing identity politics maniacs. So it's really hard for them to see this, Hollywood's always been left-wing, It's just this recent left-wing, of insanity is what's killing them, I mean, being left-wing ain't gonna hurt you. There's just, there's nothing wrong with that. It's this new insanity of far, far left-wing ideologues that's going to destroy Hollywood if they don't watch it. And I think they can see right now what type of movies sell and what don't, but they don't really want to see that. Everybody knew Avengers was going to be $1 billion movie. The same thing with The Last Jedi. But the problem that they're going to face is these Star Wars movies are going to start slipping. I don't see Solo being the big super movie that they think it is. I'm sorry, I just don't. I think that a lot of people that they're pushing this movie to don't like what they're doing to Han Solo. And a lot of people that like, what they're doing with the politics and don't care about Han Solo. So I think it's going to be a tough one to sell. I definitely think Solo is going to be one of their weaker ones, but we'll see. I mean, it's a force. It's it's ingrained in our bodies to see these Star Wars movies. I resisted Last Jedi, thank God, because it was rotten, and I probably will resist Solo. I'm not going to see Solo. I just have no desire to see it. None. I want to see Deadpool 2, and I want to see New Mutants, because I like that horror, the horror of it. I thought Doctor Strange should have went almost a little more horror direction. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Doctor Strange, but I just thought it should have looked a little less Disney show than the other movies, because, it's magic and you want to kind of get into the darker realms of the Marvel Universe, so I thought that one should have looked a little grittier. With that said, I loved the movie, and I really loved the ending to Doctor Strange. But the horror aspect is there, I mean, I'd like to see that incorporated more and kind of make the superhero movies a little more different, because they all kind of have the same feel constantly, especially Marvel. Like, every movie has that same kind of feel, and I'm kind of, like, hey, let's break away from that and do something different with the Marvel movies. Okay, and I'm way off topic on the 70s films here. But, yeah, you kind of get the gist of the point of the video was that, things come full circle. We'll see in the next couple of years kind of dictate what 2020's movie-wise is going to be. It looks like, superheroes are what they're pushing, but the little movies are what change. In '68, it was Easy Rider, In '77 it was Star Wars. You know, these are the movies that kind of change the direction of where we go in the next 10 years. You know, and I think it starts now in this year and next year. You know, something small that breaks out and they don't see it and they don't expect it. That's kind of what changes where cinema goes. And we'll see. You know, Quiet Place did well, and there's certain little movies that do well that, you know, kind of like they see that and go, well, that didn't cost a lot. You know, because, like, yeah, of course Star Wars is going to do well, but Star Wars costs, you know, tons and tons of money. Same with Avengers. I mean, that thing cost a fortune. Sure, it made $1 billion, but, you know, it cost a fortune. So if you can make a movie for $20,000, you know, like, say, Paranormal Activity, and it makes, you know, $150 million, that's almost all profit. So, yeah, they love that, where they don't have to invest a lot of money, and they know they get a lot more back. So when they see these little films that do well, they kind of look at that and go, we should do that. And then they do that, but with a humongous budget, and then they don't make any money because our people already seen that. But that's Hollywood. But yeah, I think in the next couple of years we're gonna start. Maybe something's gonna pop up that maybe wakes them up. I don't think the hippie stuff. I think it's gonna die in Hollywood because they're gonna realize there's not a lot of money to be made in it. And one of the people that kept that shit going is Harvey Weinstein. He's freaking gone now. The whole Weinstein company's gone now. Like, you know, if you look back at the Oscars, you know, if they were going to get 50, 60, 70 million dollars to make a movie that probably only should cost like $5 because it's just a bunch of people sitting around and arguing, you know, like those kind of movies, they ain't going to get that from the studio because the studio's going to be like, yeah, it's a $5 million movie. We're not going to give you what we give, you know, Iron Man because you're not going to make that kind of money, but they expect it. They got it from Harvey. You know, and they could put their friends in it. Like Jodie Foster was complaining about this. Like that Hollywood should not let superhero movies, these big budget movies, they shouldn't make them anymore. Because she was saying it's not fair that they can't compete with their little films. Well, she wasn't complaining about this until after Harvey was gone. Because once Harvey, you know, because they could get their $60, $70 million to make these pieces of crap movies because Harvey'd give it to them. Well, studios aren't going to do that. Studios aren't going to give you $70, $80 million to make, you know, a woman whose husband left her and now she has to get a new job. You know, like, they're not going to give you $80 million to make that because it only costs like 10. So, yeah, that's going to help us. You know, like these people that think they're making these important movies that nobody gives a shit about, they're not important. They're just a stupid movie. You know, we can read stuff on it. If we want to read some story about some gay transvestite who lost his leg, I'm sure you can find that story on fucking BuzzFeed. You don't need Jodie Foster's version of it with Tom Hanks, you know, that costs $80 million to make. 6 people see it and they give it the Oscar. You know, who cares? You know, you guys aren't the moral superiority of the world. But yeah, I got a feeling things change. Things change, and definitely Hollywood's gonna change. I think they're going to try to virtue signal, definitely, for another couple years, but just like always, you know, things revert back to the way they used to, you know, it's all, it goes in cycles, you know. We're going to burn out on superhero movies before too long. 2 or 3 more years, maybe 4 tops. Everybody's talking about another 10 years after Avengers 4 of Marvel movies. I got a feeling like, yeah, they're going to try. But I got a feeling that they're going to start having some, you know, once you start having some pops in the bubble, look how quickly DC dropped their universe after Justice League did do well, which I liked a lot. Which I would have enjoyed seeing more DC Universe movies. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm no future teller, but I'm just saying, like, if you look, you know, especially even in the 70s when they were making all these artsy-fartsy, they were still making manly movies, you know, because that's what made money. Dirty Dozen, best war picture ever, was made in the 70s. Kelly's Heroes, another Clint Eastwood movie, awesome war picture. 2 war pictures if you have not seen. Now, I understand that they were made in the 70s, and you're going to think they're very dated, but they are not. They are amazing, entertaining films. The Dirty Dozen and Kelly's Heroes are both 2 of the best war pictures ever made. I think I'll stop the video there and just say, hey, thanks for watching, guys. As always, you know, I enjoy the views, and I enjoy doing this, and I just do it, because it's freedom of speech, and, that's what it's all about. And I like to talk about movies and stuff and nerd shit, so, it's a cool place to do it. You guys got any questions, any comments, any videos you want me to do something on? Hit me up, a decade of film you want me to talk about, I can always do that. Maybe talk about the Western or a genre, like a horror or something, Anything like that, just hit me up. Any questions, any comments, anything you want me to do a video on, I'm more than happy to help you guys out. Thanks for watching, as always, and you guys take care and enjoy the movies. This week, see, today's video is about movies, so it's enjoy the movies. I'm going to try to get my catchphrases better. But yeah, you guys take it easy. Have a good day.